Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the M Word, our first live actually of 2026. So a very belated Happy New Year, and thanks for joining us this afternoon. If you haven't already, please give us a like, give us a subscribe, and follow us on our socials as well so that you can see what content we've got going up and when we're live. We've got loads of content that goes up throughout the week on our website in the form of blogs, on our YouTube channel in the form of short videos, reels, live sessions like this, and give us some feedback. Let us know what you like and let us know what you want to see less of and what you want to see more of. Complete change of the way in which we're going to be presenting these sessions this year, in that the M word is going to focus on just that, a word. I'm not going to have my ramblings that I'm having at the beginning, so I'm going to jump straight into my session, shrinking myself down and sharing my screen. And today's word is collaboration. And I took a step back when I thought about this topic, thinking, what should we focus on? Because collaboration's cross-discipline, right? So I could look at manufacturing or I could look at construction. But I think when I hear the kind of calls that we get regularly on the support desk and the different things that we're asking our customers and speaking to our customers about on a weekly basis, in Revit, there are so many collaboration tools that work really well, but are either misused, underutilized, or just not explained well enough. I thought that was the perfect place to start for this year. So I'm inside of Revit, and we're going to be talking about some of the collaboration tools that we can use inside of this application. So I'm going to kick us off by just starting a brand new file. And the first thing that you really need to get nailed inside of a Revit workflow when you need to collaborate with others, whether that's internal or external, is your coordinates. Making sure that your project is real world coordinated is of the utmost importance. Really easy inside of Revit. It's become a lot easier, certainly over the past handful of years, than it used to be. If I think back, 8 or 9 years, it was quite tricky to do this process. But it's really easy now, and if you don't do it correctly, it can have problems with your Revit origin becoming completely disconnected from your real world coordinates, which can cause you no end of trouble. So in my Revit file, I'm going to say I'm an architect. So let's put my architect hat on. And I want to start off this project in the right way. So inside of my Revit project, I'm going to go to my site view. This is because I want to see these 2 points here. I have the circular point, which is my project base point, and I have the triangular point, which is my survey point. If you still can't see those, then hit VG on your keyboard, Visibility Graphics, scroll all the way down to Site, and then make sure that you've got a tick next to project base point and survey point. From there, I'm going to go to my Manage tab. And right in the middle of my Manage tab, I've got 3 project location tools. The first thing I want to do is geolocate my project. This is really useful if you're going to come and do things like solar studies and solar analysis. So let's just type in the postcode of Man and Machine HQ in the UK. This will just give me a simple internet mapping service here. I can zoom in, take my pin and put it very precisely on the location, actually more like that where I am right now. And this will give me the ability to pick a weather station. That allows me to pick up sun information for solar analysis. Click OK. Simple as that. We are now geolocated in the world. The next thing I want to do is set my coordinates. And you've got a couple of ways in which you can do this. But personally, I like using the coordinates drop down at the top of the screen. And I like using the ability to specify coordinates at point. I'm going to click specify coordinates at point, and I'm just going to go ahead and click on my project base point. If you didn't want to do this, you would go and click on the project base point and move it physically, but this makes it far easier. And from here, I can type in my real world coordinates that I want this project to work on. I'm not going to type in something that's miles away for the purpose of this particular video. I'm just going to stop my screen sharing for 1 second while I close my Outlook, because that could have disastrous complications. And I'll do the same for Teams, because that could also have disastrous complications, knowing my team. And I will share my screen again. I got away with that. That could have been very bad. Welcome to YouTube Live. So we're going to type in here, I'm just going to put something like 2000 north-south, no, not 200, 2000 by maybe 1500 by 1750. Something very unrealistic, but we want some values in there. Maybe 45 degrees to true north. Visibly, what you'll see on your screen is that your project base point has actually shifted. You won't see that, but you will see that this has shifted. Actually, what's happened is this, your survey point has remained in the same place. Your project base point, however, has moved to your correct real world coordinates. You need to identify that, because if you've moved actually to real world coordinates, you'll need to get this survey point to get into the correct place relevant for your site. From here, I'm just going to place something down. I'm going to draw a wall. I'm going to specifically draw from my project base point, just a right-angled wall, just so I've got something for reference in there. And I'm going to save this project away on my desktop called Project 1. I'm going to close the file down, and I'm going to take my architect's hat off and put on my mechanical engineer's hat. Maybe I should get some actual hats. That would be fun, wouldn't it, if I physically change a hat during this session? Let's do this properly. Let's not use a construction template. So let's start a new file with my mechanical template here. Now, I've got it easier now as a mechanical engineer because I can reuse the good work the architect's done. You could do the same thing that I've just done, but I'm lazy. Anyone that knows me will know that I'm lazy. So I want to make this as easy as physically possible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that I want to insert that Revit file. So I'm going to link that Revit file in. A link in Revit is the same as an XREF inside of AutoCAD. It allows you to reference an external file, could be Revit, could be AutoCAD, could be an IFC file, the list goes on, point clouds for example. It allows me to reference that file in so I can trace it, visualize the files together, federate models together, so on and so forth. So I'm going to go and browse to that project that I've saved on my desktop. When you're bringing in that link, we've got all sorts of different options when it comes to linking that file together. I'm just going to leave it on default for now and press open. What Revit will do is it will try and align my 00 with the origin point in my other file, which is set correctly. So visually, this looks great, fantastic. I can see that if I turn on visibility graphics, if I go down to my site and turn on both my survey point and my project base point, I can see that my project base point and survey point align, which is great. This is exactly where it was in the architectural file. But those eagle-eyed among you will understand and notice that actually the survey point isn't in the right place. And actually what's happened is my 00 is at 00. The 00 in the architectural file is at 2.5 by 1.5 by 1750. So they're not in the right place at all. If I was to try and federate these two files together outside of Revit, they wouldn't align. In Navisworks, they wouldn't align. In an IFC viewer, they wouldn't align. So all I need to do is go to Manage, go to my Coordinates dropdown and say I would like to acquire coordinates from the model. So I can pull the information from that architectural model to reuse inside of my environment. If I just go and hide now my link, let's go to Insert, Manage Links. I'm just going to unload the architectural link there, just so that we can see what's going on. And if I now select my project base points, you can see it's 2000 by 1500 by 1750. This one being at an obscure angle now because it's now acquired those coordinates correctly from the architectural model. This is really, really useful. And actually now if I remove this link and just save this project to, let's put down a something, let's use a duct. Let's place down a duct. And I'm just going to draw that roughly from the 00 point. Just so again, I've got something there that you can visually see. Let's save that on my desktop here. And let's go back to the architectural file. If I now link these together, crucially, I can link them with shared coordinates, which is what we want to be able to do, because that means in an external application, these files would link together correctly. So I can add my Revit file on my desktop. I don't know why I called it project 3 rather than project 2. And I can say this time use the shared coordinates. This is going to pull the information from those files and it will align them 100% so that we have the two files using that same crucial base point. This means that the files will now conform to those project coordinates and they will work from this point onwards, which is crucial to good collaborative workflows inside of Revit. Other things that we can do when we're linking files is we can use something called Copy Monitor. Copy Monitor is really, really nice inside of Revit. I'm just going to start a new file just to show it off. Let's open up the architectural one that we had open. Copy Monitor allows us to copy things that we've got in a linked file. So let's go ahead and place some components in here. I'm just going to place a window, but you could use your grid for this. You could use, quite frankly, anything that you want to from this perspective, but I've placed in some windows. Once you've got those components and you bring them across into your environment inside of Revit. So let's insert, link in the Revit file from project 1. Let's go ahead and pull the coordinates across. So let's go to Manage, Coordinates, Acquire Coordinates from my link. Let's actually make sure that they're linked correctly. I should practice what I preach, shouldn't I? Let's unload that one and reload it back in by shared coordinates. Okay, so once that file is in, what we can do is we can say that we want to go to the Collaborate tab. And on the Collaborate tab, we've got this Copy Monitor tool. Copy Monitor allows us to select a link that we have in the model and choose to both copy and or monitor those components. So if these windows were really important to me, I could choose to copy these different windows or an entire wall in the model. I can do singular, I can do multiple, as many as you want, okay? But you can also just monitor them. It's completely up to you. What that gives me, if I go to my links and turn off my loaded link, what that gives me inside of my Revit space is actual model elements inside of my file. So I've copied components from my link into my own file. If you think about the grid in the structural file or in the architectural file, I could pull that structural grid or that architectural grid into my own file and use it as my own grid and reference it, which is great. So I've now got these walls. Because I have these walls in my file, I can host stuff on them, like this door, for example. I'm going to place it just there. Beautiful. So I can place things on this because it's in my model. I can host light switches on it. I could put lights on the ceiling. I could put structural beams in there, whatever it is that I need to do for my discipline. Once I've added those, I can hit save and I can carry on doing my work. And here comes the really nice part. If I go back to my file and make a change, like this wall is much bigger, like this window, why am I still in my site view? This window is now all the way over here and this window is up here and maybe this window is gone. With the monitor tools in Copy Monitor, it will keep an eye on components that you've used Copy Monitor on. So that when you refresh that link, so let's go to Manage Links and reload that file, it's going to say that you've got instances of component that need reviews. And if we expand on there, it will start telling us that we've got things inside this link that's changed. That prompts me to then come to the Collaborate tab and use my coordination review using this link. This will then physically tell me everything that's changed on the components that I've monitored. So I can now check to see whether an element still exists. A component's been deleted here, and you can see that it's got the difference between my copied components and the original component that's now been deleted. I can then go and do an action based on there, which is, well, actually, I want to delete the element. I want to copy that action. And we can do the same thing for new openings that exists and so on and so forth. We can work with those copy monitor tools to tell me what's changed within the file and update my, my workflow or my process because of that. We can add comments and we can really use that as a beneficial collaboration tool. If you're using links in any way, shape or form and you're referencing data, use Copy Monitor, because not only will it let you reference it, it will also tell you when it's changed, which when you're working on a live project is actually really difficult to keep track of. So really, really cool tool. And finally, the last one I want to talk about as a real top level overview in this collaboration piece is work sharing. Now, we don't have time in this short YouTube live session to go through this in the detail that perhaps it deserves, but I think I can give you a good enough top-down explanation as to what work sharing is inside of Revit, how to set it up, and actually what it means. So I've started a brand new file. As those of you that have watched these sessions before know, I don't like to pull the wool over your eyes with a pre-existing demo. So I always start from scratch, even if it ends up looking terrible. It just gives you the workflow to start from scratch yourself and you can follow me along. So I've got a completely empty model. And I'm just going to draw some really simple geometry. So let's draw 4 walls really easily like that. So I've got the core of a building. And maybe just because I can, I will add some really beautifully placed windows and an even nicer door. Beautiful. Such a nice house. I think I'll buy it myself. Let's place a floor in there really quickly. So we've got something to work from. And let's go up to level 1. It's a nice bungalow, this. And let's add a roof. Don't care. Leave it all as it is. Fine. So there is my really nice building. I'm going to add a couple of internal walls just so that we've got something inside the building. Maybe just some stud work. Let's go between there and there, there and there. Lovely, great, fantastic, beautiful. So there is some internal walls, and maybe again, because I can, let's go and add a piece of furniture in the model just there. So I have a building, and let's imagine that I would like that building to be collaborated on by a team of different people. It's absolutely possible to have a team of people working on a single Revit file at the same time. You can do it on your local server on premise, or you can do it using the Autodesk Construction Cloud with BIM Collaborate Pro. What it means is under the Collaborate tools here, we've got work sets. And what work sets will do is they will split your model up, quite frankly, however you want to split it up, but into logical areas called work sets. So we take an entire building and we maybe take the core of that building, put it on a work set. We take maybe the internal walls or the internal structure, we put it on a work set. We take all the FF&E, we put it on a work set. But you can split it up as much or as little as you need to. It's really easy to work. So we go to the work sets tool and it says, well, hang on, you're about to enable work sharing. That needs a little bit of thought. Hence why we're talking through it in 5 minutes, but it needs a bit of thought. So don't just do this willy-nilly. Let us know, reach out, give us a message, give us a DM, give us a call, and we can help you do this more specifically. But all this is saying is I should put all levels and grids on a single shared work set. And then I'm going to put everything else on a single work set called work set 1. I'm actually going to rename this, call it building core, and press OK. What that means is it creates 2 physical work sets in my model, which have got components assigned to them. Physically, if I go and click one of these walls and scroll, you can see that it's on a work set building core. I'm going to leave everything on building core apart from all of these internal components. I'm going to take these internal components and I'm going to place them on a new work set. Okay? The easiest way to do that is create all of your work sets first and then add your components to them. So let's go to Collaborate. Let's go ahead and go to my work sets and let's add a new one. Let's just call it internal for the purpose of this. Press OK. And then let's add another one called FF and E and press OK. From there, I'm going to say select all of these components and I'm going to move them onto the internal work set. I'm then going to select just this one and I'm going to move it onto the FF and E work set. So now my model is split into different sections. I'm just going to go ahead and show you at the bottom of the screen, we've got a work sets area. The button on the left here, nice colourful building, just takes us to our work sets area, allows us to choose what work set is active and see what's going on with the rest of our work sets. We can also use the drop down here to choose what work set is active. When you're in your work set dialog box, you can choose which work sets are or are not editable. By selecting something isn't editable, you're physically stopping anyone from working on that particular work set, which is really useful. You can set owners, you can set borrowers, and you can specify whether things are visible in every view or only visible in certain views. So you can completely control this how you need and how you see fit. I'm going to leave that really straightforward setup done, and I'm going to go ahead and press save. Because I've enabled work sharing, this will create what's called a central Revit model. Central Revit model is the entire model hosted, in this case, on premise on a server or network drive somewhere in my network. Actually, in this example, it's going to be saved on my desktop on my PC, but you get the idea. When you're doing that, it's physically connecting to that location whenever you choose to open the file. So I'm just going to set that up. I'm going to say open Revit file, browse to my desktop, and I'm going to go ahead and pick up project 6. You notice a couple of new options appear at the bottom of my screen here. I've got detach from central at the bottom, and I've got create new local. When we open a work shared file, it downloads that file and creates a local copy on my machine within my documents folder, which is actually the file that I'm working on. I don't work directly on that central model. It grabs a copy and saves it on my machine. More importantly, when you choose open, it's going to ask me what it is that I want to work on. And it's going to ask me what work sets I want to check out and what work sets that I want to be available to me. Because I've already got them all open, it's didn't do that. But when you open it, it's going to say, what work sets do you want to work on? So I can say that I want to open and work on the internal work set only. That will show me the components that are on that work set. I can still view the others if I want to, but I can actively edit everything that's on the internal walls. A colleague of mine could now go to the central file. They could open that file up and they could say they want to work on the building core. That will give them just those components to work on themselves in their own file. They can save their local file as many times as they need to. When they want to share their work with the wider project team, they would choose to synchronize with the central file to push their changes back to the central repository. If you're working locally on an on-premise server, that process, dependent on your connection into the office, can be a little bit slow, especially on very, very big files. And especially if you're working from home, the server is in the office and you're relying on a VPN that limits your bandwidth. If you use BIM Collaborate Pro to do this through the cloud, it is much, much quicker because it's just an internet connection to do that sync. So you can sync more often and generally be a lot more proactive with that workflow. So we work on our local file within the realms of our work set. If we need to edit something outside of our work set, we can choose to do that. We can ask if we can have temporary permission to edit a wall or something within another person's work set, should you need to. You can open a work sharing monitor to see what's going on with the central file, who else is working on what, and get input with regards to what's going on at any particular point in time. At the moment, I'm just doing this demo live, so it's just me. But I would be able to see who's working, where they're working, and I can start pinging them notifications and asking them for this and asking them for that. It actually works really well. And again, it's allowing 2 or more people to actively edit the same Revit file at the same time. Take your model, split it up into work sets, as much or as little as you need to, so that you can have someone working on this area of the building while someone else is working on this area of the building. They work locally until they synchronize the changes together, allowing them to upload their changes and download it into that other person's model, so on and so forth. Between these different workflows, whether it is that you just need to know how to link a model with correct coordinate points, whether you need to keep an eye on what's going on within that linked model with Copy Monitor, or whether you want to actively live collaborate with people on premise using central models, or over the cloud using BIM Collaborate Pro, Revit's got some super powerful collaboration tools that just work and they make your life easier. Hopefully this has been enough top level to get you started, but please reach out, check out our other socials and channels, our website. There's so many blogs on there that will hopefully help you out with regards to these topics and more. And until then, thank you ever so much for watching. We will see you this time next week for another episode of the M Word. Until then, take care. See you soon. Bye-bye.